rating on the scale for the test, then we can get rid of it. So we're not necessarily totally stuck with it. We can actually get rid of it. So that's the reason we're going to basically go with 2 barrels plus the tank.
So how much extra time are these transfer station attendants gonna be putting into doing all of this?
I truthfully don't have a clue what it's going to be for them to take it down and dump it in. I mean, they got to collect it up top. They'll have to walk down around the demo dumpsters and go into the building that's been built there and put it in the tank. So it's 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever, to do that.
So you're not looking ahead to start adding on more attendants at the.
Nope, this is all built in, because this was originally in the daily coverage for the attendance, so there's no additional coverage. Did you get them all? Okay.
It's more of a convenience for the townspeople, because there was an instance where the guys there found gallon jugs of oil in the demo dumpster. So
This last
how many
year,
times it got missed? That was one time they discovered it. How many times it got missed before that? We don't know.
Diane?
How do we find the information for the tire vendor? Previous owners of our house apparently consider them a decor item, we don't.
Audrey, yeah, we can do that and give it to you. I mean, there's only one outfit and they're out of Massachusetts. And they basically kind of put you into a schedule, and when they come up this way, then they do it.
Okay, because at some point, we'd like to get rid of those, and I guarantee you that we've never counted, but it's at least probably this one. They saved every tire, probably never.
Good to get rid of them. So, all right, Mr. Collin?
Previously, I know our expense was $2.25 a tire. We take them in at $3 offsetting costs that were related. So I was just curious, what is the new fee structure?
It's up over 3 per tire,
That's why.
and that's why we rounded it to 4. I didn't want to collect
No,
$3.26 per tire. It's like, we're not into that.
I am into numbers, so I was curious just to know what the exact tire amount was, not to criticize.
Yeah, no,
whether the price point you said.
It was over 3 and it was under 4. We chose 4.
I'll get that from the office.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And then if it's got weeds and water in it, it's 5.
5.
Well, I did notice that you had some tires stacking outside the container there, and actually.
Because the container's full.
No, I understand that. Just so you know, I've been permanent. I've been through the whole courses and stuff. Just for your knowledge, that should be covered. So you're not supposed to allow water or anything in them to breed mosquitoes. If you're gonna store them outside, right now, if you were doing that, that would be considered a violation if you had DES walk through. You should have target, whatever, something.
I believe those tires that are outside were ones that were picked up on the road that already had weeds and water in it. So,
Yeah, but now that you're storing them DES with site, if you do, you're supposed to cover them no matter what. They might have come in that way.
Yep, no, we can look at a tarp, put a tarp on it, that'll work.
But once you get them hauled away, well.
Right, and as Lenny said, that the tires with something in them are $5.50 a tire to get rid of, not 3 something.
So that's that offset the municipality. You can price it up a little because it's covering other extreme costs.
Yeah, it does not cover the full cost of recycled tires. It covers a chunk of it, but not all, by design. Okay. Back row.
Steve.
142 Nutter Road. I've been doing some minor research on this subject, and I do know the state offers grants to gas stations that actually dispose of oil. So maybe there's a way they can help pay for it. Have you looked into anything, any grants, any other type of assistance from the state?
We actually did. Do you want to cover that?
Yeah, we received a $2,500 grant from the state this year and last year.
That's all. I mean, that's nice. It just doesn't seem like that was.
That's actually all they They allow, that's all they have. It's a
We got the
2,500
maximum
a year.
allowed on a 3-year schedule, so it's 2,500 a year for 3 years. So if we come up with something next year, we can apply for a partial grant to cover that.
Okay. What about like other household hazardous waste products?
Waste day.
There's a hazardous waste day that'll be at the Ossipee transfer station in 2022.
Okay,
Last year, it was down at the elementary school because of COVID. They've moved it back to Ossipee, but that happens the first Saturday in August, I believe, for us.
is that something we can do? It's a transfer station if we,
No.
get the grant for it.
No.
They offer grants for that too.
No, it's a whole logistics thing. The state won't allow you to, you have to set up just so many infrastructure issues to deal with hazardous waste.
We actually pay a fee to Lakes Region Planning Commission to split that heavy cost of the collection for that day. So we get a good bang for our buck, the way it's set up. Anything else?
That beats the alternative of dumping in the ground, you know.
Yep. So, all right. Anybody else? Audrey?
I found the quote from Kevin Quealy at Clean Harbors. He says, I wanted to get out to you what it would officially cost to have the municipality oil picked up by one of our waste oil trucks. The cost is 30 cents per gallon and a one-time $250 truck stop charge. The process is that they come, they take a sample, they send it down to a lab in Louisiana. Once the lab report comes back, they send us a profile and then they schedule the pickup. And we can set up service around the profile material and pricing at that time. So it's actually 30 cents a gallon and $250 per truck stop.
There's a hauling fee to it that's different than the testing fee. Is that in there too?
No, that's not.
Okay, so in addition to the testing fee, which has to be done prior to pickup, there's also a hauling fee for hauling it away.
Wouldn't you think the $250 truck stop charge would be that?
I don't know.
That sounds like a holiday.
Yeah, that sounds.
It's on the hauling fee? Okay,
And the testing fee would be.
Original quote they gave us was $1 again.
it was.
Yeah, I don't know, this is October 1st, 21.
Actually, the benefit, guys, is when we were looking at this was in the volume of the bigger tanks, the more they pump out, the less it costs was. So it wasn't by the gallon, it was by the haul. They have capacity. So it's just a matter of the more volume you can load up for that 250. That's why we were going with the large tank.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Make a motion to approve the changes to the transfer station ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Let's see. Selectmen's meeting minutes, December 7, 2021. We made that motion and we seconded it and we passed. I'm gonna make a motion for the selectmen's minutes from December 8, 2021. To hear a second.
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
And there were two yield tax levy documents that needed signatures today. Changing the rate of pay for one of the employees and a 2021 abatement that was processed. The manifest dated December 16, 2021, make a motion to approve $221,615.29. Your second?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
And about 192 of that and change is the school payment for December.
Chuck,
Yes,
on the agenda here, it says children.
if there was an error.
Okay.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
there's actually three things on here that Audrey gave us in red. And that was the first one right there, the change in the actual amount. It was a typo.
That was a pass.
How pleasant.
Good. Okay, in the mail folder, there was a letter from Robertson Green, our CPAs for the town, for their final letter for their report. We did well for 2020. It's signed, sealed, delivered. The one area we've had previous exposure on for several years was the capital asset report not being kept up to date. Part of this year's project with the accountant was to make sure that was taken care of and remedied, and it was. So we don't have any deficiency anymore in that one particular area. Announcements, do we have any?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, new business. I have provided a good portion of you a copy of a document that's not listed on your agenda, but I'm going to cover it in new business if you can. And then I'm going to ask Grace to speak to a couple things around the library. So we have been successful, and Grace will get into detail of the success of what the grants have been for the library. In the process of doing the upgrading of the technology over the last 4 or 5 days. So I've got a consultant that I've used for 30 years. He flew out here on his own dime. He's doing the entire setup at his own dime. So it's being donated. And one of the things we discovered as a result of setting it up is the internet speed is so slow and bad at the library that it'll cause a problem with trying to use some of the new technology that the library is looking to get into. So I want to ask Grace to come in this morning just to talk to some of the grants that they've received and what the potential of those grants to be used for. So.
Thank you. Yes, the internet speed at the library currently is very low anyway. So for any of you who've called the library, you may hear crackling noise. You may not hear a good connection as you call through, and that's because we use voice over internet for the telephone. And it's slow as it is. So when we have multiple computers using the bandwidth, the limited bandwidth that we have, it just drains it more all the time. We surprisingly were very successful with grant writing this year. So Sue Riegel, myself, and Jen Van Coor usually meet on a weekly basis to write grants. And because of our success, we put a hold on it. We applied for 6 grants, we got 5 of them, which, you know, I'd be happy with 1. And the premise behind the grants was to get updated computer equipment for the library. And we're looking at this more as a community action type of thing, as opposed to a library with books. One of the things that we have in our town is, you know, there's some discrepancies with jobs. So we wanted to be able to provide opportunities for people to learn computer skills, have access to computers, and provide that at no cost to our residents to help increase the economic status of some of our residents. So we had a couple of points in mind there. We asked for computer equipment, we asked for money for instructors, and something else, and staff time to help set that up. And we were able to get there with each of the grants. We have a grant from the FCC, we have grants from New Hampshire Charitable, New Hampshire Humanities. Somebody else. I can't remember the other ones right now. And we also got a grant from the American Library Association for helping to start a conversation on homeschooling. We have a lot of residents in town who are homeschooling their kids. That's not kids who are part of Governor Wentworth who are working remote, but these are people who are homeschooling their kids with their own curriculum. They're not on the Governor Wentworth bill that we pay, you know, they're homeschooled, and we know anecdotally, because there is no record of this, we know anecdotally from personal experience, there are between 15 and 20 kids that are homeschooled. So one of our grants is to reach out to these families and see what the library can do to help support that. And one of the components of the grant was to provide computer equipment that kids could have access to in the library to help with doing online courses and so forth. So this is great. We're really successful. And now we have these computers. We have like this much computers and we have this much bandwidth. So anytime anybody accesses the computer, it just squeezes that bandwidth in a lot more. Oh, the other thing I'll say too is last year we expanded the Wi-Fi so it covered the whole parking lot so people could use the internet for those that don't have broadband at home. You know, there's a lot of people in town who don't have internet access. And we do have people who regularly use that both for schoolwork kids, you know, parking there, and others who are doing business. So the ask is, we want to improve the connection that we have at the library. The connection is like circa 1980s with what we have right now. It's really small. So that is the ask, because otherwise we have all this beautiful equipment that we receive that we won't be able to use. And as you know, the internet, the availability for using computers is really key for both the children and for people progressing in jobs. It's an essential. I don't know what I do without my smartphone, but I mean, that's, you know, that's one component. The classes, I'll just say this one other, I can talk about this all day, so.
I know you can.
I know.
I was gonna cut you off in
I
10
know,
minutes.
I know, but this is so exciting. So the classes, we included everything in the classes, from teaching people about the various hardware that we have. So whether it's your smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, or desktop, teaching people about that, teaching people how to use the internet, teaching people various software programs that are essential, like Word, Excel, having the ability to conduct interviews or do webinars using Zoom. Those of us who've used that over the past year, I mean, there's so much that's available for free through classes and other things. So it's basically comes down to 15 different classes that we have that's going to cover all of this information. So it's pretty darn exciting. And we're starting that, if you're interested, we're starting that in mid-January on Tuesdays at sometime.
And we cross our fingers and hope that the internet will cooperate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's an interactive class. It's not listening the whole time. It's listening for 5 minutes and then working on it for 15 minutes. So there's practice. So.
Do you want to speak to the grant that will involve the partnership with the Effingham Historical Society?
I'll speak to that one as well. So we got another grant. So this is another one different from the other ones that we applied for. So the librarian applied for this in partnership with the Historical Society. We got a substantial grant that will allow us to video and record conversations with citizens in town about the history of our town. That we can archive those and also purchase a large scanner so we can scan documents and photographs. And these will be housed on the library website in conjunction with the Historical Society, so people can access that. That's going to be a really fun grant to work on. So yes, that was the other one. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had a record week with all these grants coming in, but now we have to be able to use them. So, and it's all, these are all, even if this no matter what, there's no cost to the town with this. These are all things that are for the use of the residents of the town with no cost. We can't use it for operating expenses, but we can use it to pay for the things that we don't have to ask the town for, such as updating computers. Do you want me to cover something else?
No,
I can
let me,
keep
you
going.
hit the high point.
Okay, fine.
Let me cover some of the pieces on the document without reading the document to you. So about 1 year and 3/4 ago, I started doing some research to look at upgrading the technology, the internet for the library. When I did that, I went and talked to the only 2 providers we have in the area, which is Spectrum and Consolidated Communications. And as a result of that, we actually had them come in and do the town office in a proposal, and they won the proposal. So Consolidated is being used by the town office with new internet speeds and really helping out the efficiency of the office, because things actually load in seconds now rather than in minutes when we're talking to the state websites. The quote that I got from Spectrum at the time was about $8,200 a year. So the existing service is a grandfathered service from the days of Adelphia Communication. Adelphia, I believe, is the one that originally wired part of the town for cable. Their offering was you pay for the phone, you get free internet. The negative to that is the speed is 16 download, 2.5 megabits upload. The federal standard is 25 and 3. Unfortunately, large chunks of this town do not have 25 and 3. When I talked to Consolidated said, we've got a pole with fiber that runs right by the library. We would be willing to offer wiring the fiber, which is the next generation of internet service, to the library at speeds of 100 over 100, which would be more than enough to look at this. I did get an updated quote yesterday because I wanted to verify the numbers hadn't changed that much. And what I found out was with Consolidated in the Business One package they're proposing to us at speeds of 100 over 100, it is actually less expensive than if I had to go to an enterprise version for a slower speed. I was kind of hoping for like a 50 over 50 or 75 over 30, which would reduce the price. It doesn't happen. It's 100 over 100. There's some equipment that would come with part of that, with switches and a few other things, routers. That actually can come out of the grant money that has been in, because equipment, technology equipment, computer equipment, which this is related to, can be covered by the grant. So there's about $950 worth of expenses to set this new program up. It's covered by the grant itself. So the library's cost right now at Spectrum is $49 and change a month, call it $50. The new service with Consolidated would be $2,750. So 600 from 27, 2150. So the question that I really want to present, not only to Lenny, but to the rest of you, I mean, with the feedback I can get, is it worth the town paying that additional 2150 per year to have this type of coverage based on what the library is doing? And I'll open it up for comment for anybody that wants to speak to it. Mr. Cahalan.
I think it's very positive. I think it's a great job to turn around in the library chasing grants and doing what they've been doing. And they've expanded so much down there for services and outreach. I think it's fantastic, Chris. You guys did great. Huge.
Mr. Regal?
I think that you should look at it as a package, improving the library with no cost to the town against what we would pay to give it the proper highway to run the information on. I think is worthy, because it's money we didn't pay for this equipment. We pay for the
Just the operating expenses, that's what it is.
exactly, instead of double it, you know what I mean?
None of the grants that we've applied for either the townhouse project or the library project will cover any kind of operating expenses. They'll help purchase equipment, they'll help do different construction, they'll do all kinds of stuff. Operating expenses are excluded.
Right.
So that's where this the net for the town will be 2150 to be able to do this. Now, in addition to this, on the second page toward the bottom, you'll see one of the upgrades we're looking to do next year, when we are hopefully going to redo the first floor, get rid of the suspended ceilings, rewire the entire first floor so it's up to code, and a new security package. So the alarm system in there right now is extremely outdated. The upgraded security package, the quote that I've gotten in right now is about $7,500, is actually going to be covered by the townhouse project. So no expenses to the town, covered by the donations to the project and any grants we can get to help support that. So when that particular element takes place, it will need the internet. This higher internet service will give us a better quality security package for the building and the parking lot.
I think it's
So-
well worth it with all the new stuff coming in that they worked so hard to obtain. I totally agree that I feel that's worth it.
Yeah, and Gracie was telling me the other night that because of the number of grants I got, they're actually gonna be able to buy more computers and laptops and things than they were counting on tablets.
And it would be a shame to have that equipment sitting around not being able to be used because you don't have the bandwidth to do it. You know, the 100 over 100 definitely gives you that so that you can use it.
And they're actually talking about with the laptops and the tablets, of being able to provide some kind of a checkout program, kind of like you come in and check out your book. You come in and check out your computer, you use it for a period of time, then you gotta bring it back. So it will help numerous people.
Yeah, people job hunting and stuff like that. It'd be
Exactly.
nice that they could take that home, you know.
telemed is the other thing too, you know, we can have the conversation with your physician over the computer, video.
Well, yep.
Okay, just a little change in the subject, so we're having a board meeting tonight, I just want to bring this up because it is a public board meeting. But so you're also aware of this. I can't even believe I'm gonna explain this to you, but, because we have accepted some money from the FCC, we have to follow the Child Information Protection Act, CIPA, which means that we're going to be blocking porn from the library computers. Now, I will say, we have to vote on that. If you have any concern about that, come to the meeting tonight. That's going to be our conversation. But yeah, otherwise it's freedom of information.
Yeah, a lot of libraries
right.
don't block it because they haven't got the capability.
But we,
would go to the library to watch.
well, I can't even believe I'm telling you guys this, but anyway, but anyway, so we did purchase a router that allows us to filter out these sites. I have no idea how it works. I don't even want to know. But I did want to let you know that's part of our board meeting tonight. And if you have any concerns about us blocking that, feel free to show up. And we will listen to your
I'll be there.
opinions. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
That was enough.
I know, that was a terrible thought to leave you with. I know, I'm really sorry about that.
Lenny, any thoughts? Oh, Audrey, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify for the minutes that it was $50 per month, and when you said $27.50, that's per year.
$2,750 per year. Right now, I believe the bill at 49 a month, it's 49 in cents. I didn't have the
Yeah.
cents. It's like 588. So the net increase to the town over the existing budget would be $2,150, and it's really not that. It's like $42, but I rounded it to 50 to keep it.
And then my other thought, it was surprising to learn that fiber already passes the library. Is there a way that the residents can reach out to Consolidated through this, maybe a discount to get onto the fiber?
So, you know the problem, so last year when we made the change to fiber here at the office, they came in, they did presentation, great, boom. We ended up then having a 2-month delay. Because they discovered that as a result of offering the service to the town office in their system, they actually had to purchase an upgraded switch at their central location wherever they process locally. And that switch was on them. That was their ticket. They're gonna have to purchase another switch for the library, but the switch allows multiple connections. So I'm thinking as soon as we get this up and running, it could be advertised, consider, you know, if you're on Townhouse Road, there's actually a few roads in town, but Townhouse is the one that they were willing to offer first. And we could basically say, the library's got it, how can I get it?
Good call.
I don't know if that could be in negotiation or that question, because you might get it town meetings.
I don't, I don't want to raise the issue on the
All right.
switch, because I know they're gonna have to purchase themselves.
All right.
Mr. Strauss,
You know, I got some questions.
I know you do. I saved the best for last.
First off, the current contract we have that we funded through 4130 executive, I assume that does not take in the library,
Does not take in the library, that is correct.
okay?
It does cover transfer station.
Right, but
Phones.
your paperwork is stating that you would put some of this into executive.
My proposal,
Wondering why you would not put it in the telephone internet line item of the library.
we can do that.
I
From a,
mean, I prefer keeping it cleaner as opposed to, we have the contract at 4130 for executive.
Yep.
The 2150, you guys make a motion to revise 4550 library telephone and internet. And that way I can bring it up on the 1-4 meeting if you do that.
I'm good with that.
You know,
I mean, it can be done either way,
I mean, well, that's the way we get.
but I like that
We get it
explanation.
to the public hearing and we get it out as a warrant.
Yep, yep.
So, I mean, I would prefer it to be, if you can get them the 4550 budget sheet and have you do a motion to amend that to
At
line
2150.
item, 2150 total. Well, I mean, right now we got 500 in it, so.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know where the 588 came from, but.
That's actually what the current bill is, Dave.
So you'd be reducing the 2150 is what you'd be putting that line, so we would remove the 500 from the line and put 2150. I'm assuming that's what you want. And then if you could do a motion on that, then I could have that ready for the budget committee on the 4th. So if we could do that at this meeting, that would be awesome.
We'd have to go with 2750.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Well,
thinking.
the 588 is already in their budget. So like what Dave's asking by putting
Dave
that,
said we get 500, take that out.
On the line item.
50 in, but we'd have to put 2750 in.
oh,
Right.
gotcha, got it, yep,
Yeah, you got 500 in the line item right now.
all right.
So,
So-
right, take that out.
2250 is what we need to add to get us to 2750. Okay. I'll make a motion to add $2,250 to the library operating budget for next year.
That's second that.
All those in favor, vote aye.
Or the internet, right?
David, thank you very much for that additional twist in the documentation.
Well, you'll get that to them for the signature, so we can have that.
And we'll vote on it on the board tonight.
Okay, and then when I traded emails with Ian yesterday, I asked him for an update on how quick can we get it in. And he's checking on that,
Oh, that'd be good.
so we'll see how. we get.
January 15th?
I understand, I don't know, because they've got to come out and do the wiring external, and based on what we learned at the town office, there's probably gonna be 5 different people involved with this. The guy that looks at the pole outside, the guy that runs the wire from the pole to the building on the outside, then a guy on the inside to actually install a box, and somebody else then to come in and take care of the lines. So you wonder why utility companies are so expensive. All right, thank you, Grace, appreciate you
Thanks for your
coming
time.
in and
Thank you.
be part of this conversation. Okay,
I just have one thing,
Yeah.
Grace, the cart and freehold punch in the lobby is for the library, please.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
and the other thing from a budget sheet, we actually have the numbers now for the insurance line item 4196. For the health insurance, liability, workers' comp, and the group benefits. The budget for next year would end up being $89,845. So I'll make that as a motion for this line item. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, let's see where we're at. Department updates. We have Chief Burbank here,
Yes, sir.
and you provided us a report. Would you like to speak to that?
I don't have a copy of it. Basically, it's basically saying,
I can solve that one. Front and back.
basically, we had 27 calls last month, 16 were during the day for 60%. The calls were in during the daytime coverage. Got 13 medical alarms, 8 service calls, 1 unintentional falls, 1 good intent, 2 mutual aids, and 2 more vehicle accidents. We had 4 trainings, 1 on self-contained breathing apparatus, search and rescue, driver and pump training, and vehicle familiarization.
Now, Randy, for the part-time piece that we started in May, early June for the daytime coverage, if memory serves me, over 50% of the calls every single month are being covered by that daytime coverage. Am I correct on that?
Except for 1 month.
1 month.
One, I think we had like 42%.
Okay,
We've been as high as 65%, I believe.
okay.
Right now, this month, we're at 80%.
So, and-
So about 15 calls, that's 80, 75. on the line.
Okay, so that, the reason I kind of set that up as the next discussion, I think you're gonna cover is the times and the, as far as how fast you get there and.
Yeah, we get there pretty quick, especially down that area. I mean, we had a call right there in 2 minutes and took them 17 minutes to get there, so.
So one of the things Randy's been doing monthly for us is tracking the Sheriff's County logs. from a standpoint of dispatch for our people to leave the station to get to wherever the call is. And if the ambulance is needed, the ambulance also arriving to get there. And the beautiful thing is, in the vast majority of the cases, unless it happens to be pretty much outside their door up on 25 and 16, the fire department in many cases is getting there way faster than the ambulance, which is good. And was it last month we saved somebody because of the heart attack?
Oh, we saved 2 people, but one was in June, like 2 weeks after we started this, and the other one was in August over here. Camp. Hospital camp.
Does anybody have any questions of Randy?
I think he's been doing a great job, right?
Thank you.
I'm so glad you got one through last time.
Everybody was hoping that the daytime coverage would indeed prove that we've got a lot of activity going on during the day and we weren't able to staff it. So the idea that we've got that part-time coverage now is actually helping the whole time.
And yesterday we had 3 calls on different areas of town. We got there before the ambulance in all 3.
Okay,
You know, one was on Trout Run, that area, which I was surprised we beat them there. 'Cause, right, you never know, they could be coming back from hospital in Wolfboro, so. I mean, so this daytime coverage has proven to be worth it.
yeah, I mean, the ambulance isn't 100% of the time setting in the station up on 25 and 16. Sometimes it's coming back from a transport, coming back from a call when he gets a second call, so. Thank you very much, Chief Burbank. Chief Duchesne for the police department was supposed to be here this week, but he asked to move to next week because he's got something going on from a police standpoint. And the under old business. Hold on one second. I don't see selectmen comments in here. Or town administrator comments in here.
I think Darby had a bad day.
All right.
She locked herself out of the building even.
Oh, that's a bad way to start your day. All right, before we get into the old business, let's do the town administrator and selectmen's comments.
All right, great. I was out yesterday and so I had a relatively short week since last meeting. I've started to put in requests to the vendors to get their invoices early. We can get all our expenses in and close up 2021. I have a good idea how it closes early. Hopefully the electrician's gonna follow through and come in tonight to put outlets in the computer room. We had another outage this weekend and we desperately need to have those computers set up correctly. So when the power comes back on, everything reboots correctly. And over the weekend, I'm not getting repetitive alarms on my phone saying, we're out of power, the alarm system's not working, things like that. The final 2020 audit is, should be on the website. I sent it to the webmaster, Teresa, last week. And we're also doing a little bit of computer upgrades. Some of my priorities now are to get the personnel policy finalized for this year. And also do an RFP for our computer support.
For next year's contract.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
when you obtain some of that information, could you share it with the library director, Amanda Stevens?
Sure.
Because one of the things we're gonna have to take a look at is the support structure at the library at some point. For the next 12 months, we're covered, but it would allow them at least a discussion to be able to determine what will be needed in the future. Thank you. Money.
We didn't get a quote from Clean Harbors yet on the old oil barrels.
No, did he take a,
He took a sample.
yeah, no, I haven't had any response.
And no word on a tire pickup.
I'm not aware, I'll have to ask.
Yeah. I mean, he showed up, what, a month ago. I thought he was coming back the next week, but it did. So, I think that he's been, I think Darlene called, I think, last week.
Okay.
Or the week before. Yeah. And we did get our oil tank yesterday. Yeah, so
We got it on the ground.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get it
it's
into the building area. We're working on that at 1 o'clock today.
there. And Kevin Cody did put some siding on the building, front and back, sides has been. And I got a call into Thompson Gray Concrete, waiting for them to get back to me
Okay,
again, so.
okay.
I'm waiting to call East Coast. till we get it.
I would say I'd reach out to 3 or 4 of them and see what you can get.
That's all I got right now.
Okay, so as part of the Bailey Road engineering project, I happened to go down and take a look at that area the other day, and lo and behold, they were doing the core borings. And the HEB and on-site engineer was there and made the comment to me that he was extremely happy with the first several borings, because when they got down to roughly the 20-foot level, they were getting some really nice, solid material, which apparently in their world means this is good, not soft all the way down for 50 feet. So that was going well based on his opinion. The last week's discussion we had on the HEB contract and the CMA reports and the potential warrant article for the town for Bailey Road culvert. So one of the concerns we had during a discussion here and is basically what we're gonna have to do, an increase in the 400,000 target of that warrant to a higher number. So I spent a lot of time this week going over the CMA reports again and the HEP contract again. And the good news is that the numbers we're looking at from HEB are actually less than the numbers that were put into the contract for CMA or into their report as projected cost. The other thing we can do as a result of that is provide a very small cushion. Probably between 380 and 400. That way, if we get something that's an absolute, nobody thought about it kind of thing, it's covered. Where it's going to be a warrant article, we want to make sure we've got enough money in the warrant to do the work. So if we overspend it because something wasn't taken into account, we don't build the bridge next year, and it's deteriorating pretty fast. So we'll have more discussion on that with the budget committee, and then we'll do the public hearing. We'll have discussions on that at the same time, I'm sure. Dave, you want to make any additional?
No, you covered everything.
Okay, yeah, just so at a high level, we had initial concerns, ultimately no concern. All right, in old business, last week, we agreed to put out a 2-part Green Mountain Road paving RFP for 2022. And at the meeting, the majority of the select board wanted to go out with a 2-bid process. So all 3 of us voted yes, we would do that. And Audrey has gone in and created a combined RFP 1, RFP 2 proposal. In some of my work last week, I had a conversation with Mike Cahalan, and Mike asked if he could address the group this week based on the research he's done over the last 3 or 4 years on the whole Green Mountain Road paving area. So I asked Mike to come in this morning, take 10 minutes to cover some points.
Thanks, Chuck. Essentially, the paving industry probably would be kind to receiving 2 RFPs like that. It's not going to tell you anything about finances that's going to change anything on your end. Paving companies, and have been dealing with a lot of these guys for a while now. They get comfortable, say, with the DPW manager. They know that Bob's great to work with. It's easy. He's got it all figured out. And they probably reflect the price that way. John, on the other hand, in another town is difficult. And, typically, like any contractor, the price will be reflective of that. What the paving industry doesn't want to probably do is entertain 2 different bids like this. They're expecting you, the town, to understand what your constraints are financially and what you want for a project. The other part of this is completely adjustable for you guys. You put out one bid and you don't like it because the money's too high or something like that, you don't have to go with it. You can cancel any of that. You can rebid it. Going forward to the town with a warrant article can be changed on the floor. You guys have got a lot of options. Other than that, I put something together and I even stopped in on Tom Harder and seeing him, talking to him, so he's asked me some of this stuff. And I put a little spreadsheet together for him on the warrant articles that you shared with me and the funding, and kind of broke it down as to how the funding would come about. It's not all blanket taxes and unassigned funds potentially. And I think there's a huge potential for these projects to come in under budget, because in the paving world, it's a monthly average. I've given you guys paperwork on that before. So right now, we're at a highest point, $587.50 on a monthly average for this, what the industry bases things on.
And it's petroleum prices you're talking about, right, Mike?
Right, it's called the AC, asphalt. It's asphalt fuel. So they generally look at diesel prices and asphalt prices, and the asphalt price is the one you focus on. So right now, we're almost $590. This number hasn't been this high in, the last time it was higher was 12 years ago. So we've been staying pretty constant in the last 42 months, above $500 in this category. 6 months out of those 42, it's been a little lower. And we've run projects in that time frame. What happens is the industry can adjust. So when you have a high or a low, this can be passed on to the towns. So what we've seen in the past is we've gotten some really good bid prices. And that's kind of what you want to probably stay with. The swing in 1 year, in the times we've been doing this, was $117 in a 12-month period in that asphalt price. It swings as much as, actually, I'm sorry, that was in 8 months, $117. In 12 months, $190 in that price. So essentially, the price you put out today doesn't necessarily mean that's the price you're going to pay in August on a paving job.
So the contracts actually reflect that. Here's the estimate based on today's number, but your final bill will be whatever the asphalt price actually is. So it can be higher or lower.
Right, and sometimes with minor changes that don't influence them too much, they'll stay with it. In fact, the last time we did Green Mountain Road, we were at an asphalt price of $550. You also have another component, which is grinding, which is the grind and reclaim. So you package these up, and that grind and reclaim moves about $1, $1.60 a square yard we've had, to upwards of $2.60 advertised, in some bids. We typically get it lower. Another example is when I gave you guys the specs for Snow Road to pave that this year. I went on some statistical data, and we were expecting a price to be about $82,000. It came in significantly lower because Allstate's material gave us a price of $69 a ton for the base, $72.45 for the wearing course. They fire their plant with propane. And you just mentioned propane price that you just saw was really good. So you have some other competing factors here. I truly expect that you fund the project in its entirety, the whole length, roughly $625,000, including some construction material come in. But that's really conservative. I think it's going to come in less. You can fund that with, you've got lapsing funds this year that should be no less than $160,000, minus whatever HEB, hit you. You got $37,000 of warrant articles, 36 that you can fund from that lapsing. You can spread $53,000 onto, say, the Bailey Road, another 50 into this road budget. So you're using up that money that you've taxed the town on, and you're leveling out. Meanwhile, you've got carryover money. So at the end of the day, your unassigned fund balance for paving project at my price point, you'd be putting out $156,000 out of your unassigned fund balance, which isn't a lot. It's far lower than I think the numbers where people were really thinking was going to be impacted. But just the same, you get a discount in the price. R&D, we've done business with them in two different projects. A smaller project was $83 a ton on average, and a larger project was reflective of $73 and change. It was a $10 swing to the penny. You got 5,500 tons on the whole length of the road is my what I worked out. Times $10 in a swing on the price, $55,000. That's where your needle could move. But you're doing an even bigger project. So if we were in the same marketplace, you could see a bigger savings. Also, the road construction. These are conservative numbers. You put them out high, not expecting to really overload that budget. You should be getting money back from these projects. So the thing you're doing is essentially you're allocating money out of your fund balance, your unassigned fund balance, which the town finally has a very good reserve, but it doesn't necessarily mean or commit you to using it. You may not have to touch that money. And if you find out you put these bids out and you get scared, and this is going to work that well, you can put it back out for bid after town meeting, and you just simply change the wording in the warrant article on the floor and your dollar amount, and you're approved to put another bid out. Potentially, if you've chosen the lowest bidder, you could alter the contract too. You might want to. It's not the greatest way, but I do believe you have the flexibility to do that and shorten up the length of the road within the existing contract that you accepted. So putting out two bids really sends the wrong signal. And I have a lot of statistical data over time and years that we've been doing this business. I had a price point of between the wearing and the base surface of $79 a ton in 2020 from All States Material when they priced out an estimate. R&D is priced out for us before too. So when I crunch the numbers that I would expect to see, I think you're going to come in well under budget. But in today's marketplace, you're shooting high financially, as Chuck, you were outlining. But I think you're really safe on that. And the same goes for the Bailey Bridge project, because there was a $10,000 grant built in there, management administration, and there was an inflation factor of 14,000 plus. We had discussed an additional 17 because of the volatility that we've seen in recent times. And again, they had a total of, with that grant in there, $99,000 to oversee the construction of a box culvert. I just really don't think that's going to happen. We've got out of the
And that was CMA's number, right?
yeah, CMA's number. And I don't think the oversight that they built in 34,000 and that $10,000 in the grant, that's 44,000. I don't think you're going to see that. The total package for a much more complicated project on Snow Road involving time with the USDA, which believe me is a mess of wires. That came in at $78,338.40. So for all the engineering, and that spanned a really long time. This is a much more straightforward project. So I really think you probably won't hit those high numbers. And Bailey Road, the breakdown that I have, and I'll give you guys a copy. It shows that we would tap the unassigned fund balance for just over $98,000. Your total output from unassigned fund balance with these two projects would be a $254,500. If you added $75,000 for the library, you get to just about $330,000. And if you looked at your unassigned, you'd be in good shape. If you took these funds off of your balance sheet, that Dave likes, you should have that one around, it'd still leave you a retention of over 19, almost 20%, 19.7%. DRA's max is 17, so you'd fit in all those parameters. So this is adjusted because my original carryover number I thought was 169, but it's 166 showing in the latest budget. And this was from Mr. Hart. He looked at this and he just wanted to convey to you gentlemen that he would be fine with any of that. And he asked me to put a little notation. He signed it and just to say, he knows he's not here, but he just thanks you for any consideration you give him. So those are the numbers. I really don't think you have any need to put out a second bid, and it really doesn't convey to that industry it's really kind of not done and it's not necessary. So if you have any questions on those numbers, and I'll get a sheet over to Dave, because I know you'll be chomping at the bit to get this, Dave.
So-
Make sure you have that. So-
Mike threw out some numbers. And I just want to give the audience as well as on camera some background around the discussions for the select board as well as the budget committee. The Bailey Road Bridge estimated warrant will be $400,000. 150 of that. 150,000 of that will actually come from ARPA funds that we got from the federal government. So the remaining part of that can be covered by lapsing funds from Snow Road Bridge, any other lapsing funds that we have. We could even dip into the unassigned fund balance if we needed to do that. The Green Mountain Road project, what we're talking about this morning, we got 1.1 miles where we've got a lot of work. So what we ended up doing in last year's budget, historically, over the last several years, the town has used a line item of $250,000 annually for the roads. And typically that 250 gets us about a mile or a little over a mile of road, ground, reclaimed, paved, everything ready to go. With the next stretch of Green Mountain Road, it was determined 2 years ago that there is a large chunk of that that's going to need a lot of additional TLC, tender loving care, with gravel and other fill. So what we ended up last year doing, when we took the 250, which the town allocated for roads, we purposely did not spend 150 of that so that we could carry that forward this year to help offset the next section of road. So 250 is the normal allocation, 150 is the next allocation we know that's there. So 400 grand for the next section of road. The remaining 1.2, 1.3 miles is really the contention component. This is where the difference between a smaller proposal and a full proposal comes into play. And that means doing the remainder of the road out to Route 25. From that standpoint, there's no major work that we know of today, culvert replacements or anything else that needs to be done at this time. So getting a quote for the big picture would allow us to know the number. When we get to the second week of January and the town closes its books, all the hypothetical numbers that Mike's got here and Dave and I've worked on, whatever, will finally be cast in concrete. How much money did we not spend in 2021 that had been allocated by the taxpayer? Means we've already paid it. With that entire amount of money, we can carry over and repurpose into these things. Dave, go for it. What am I doing wrong?
This is, first off, it's speculation. And the budget committee asked for two bids because we don't have final numbers yet. The final numbers that we do have is an increase of the select board of almost 240,000 in the town budget over last year. So the budget committee is trying to balance the numbers to reduce the impact of that 240,000 increase that the select board is asking you for. So we're trying to balance the numbers. And we're trying to make sure that we keep an unassigned fund balance, which is very important because the school has now just gone up over almost $2 per thousand. So we're receiving a lot more income. And they're going to be requiring a larger payment from us. So we need to be able to have funds in the unassigned fund balance to do this. When will we know what we have for a good number? January. We already said that. What the budget committee feels that we want to hedge our bets by having two bids, because the townspeople at that point will be able in January to say, we'll support going full road on Green Mountain Road. Or we don't support that, we need to offset some of those funds, only do the first section and offset some of those funds from that 240,000 they're asking us for to reduce the whack that the taxpayer is gonna receive. We don't have all those figures yet. This doesn't include the 240,000 that the select board's asking. I can tell you that it's prudent. And if you only wanna do one bid, and that's what this whole discussion is about, 1 or 2 bids. The budget committee would only favor, in my opinion, the one section, because we don't have enough information. You've already voted to go to two bids. I see no harm in 2 bids, that's my own opinion. So we need information when we get into January, when we have the final numbers. I'm gonna throw numbers out at you, I know what I want, I know what I feel comfortable with for the unassigned fund balance. We'll know that in January. I don't wanna speculate, but we need to have either just the one single section that we planned on, or if you're gonna do both, give us both. Because we're gonna have to adjust all the warrant articles for what's taking out of the unassigned fund balance in January. Just voting on one warrant article for Green Mountain Road, because you've got everything in it, doesn't encompass all the other warrant articles that are affected. You wanna sit in town meeting and go through every one of these stupid warrant articles? No. We need to do that at the budget committee and get them straight for a public hearing for you guys before we do that.
And the
So-
public hearing will be critical, like
Give
it
me
always
one.
is.
Give me one section. If you want, I want 2, because I want both sections. It's information I need. I'm sorry, the contractors may not like it, then nobody bids. I'm sorry, but we need information. We don't have that information right now. And I don't feel comfortable getting a town below a certain level on the unassigned fund balance. And I think all you
And
guys
you and I are-
know,
you and I are in
know what the
agreement.
unassigned fund balance is.
You and
And
I are
Mike
in
knows
agreement,
it too. We
solid,
both know this.
solid.
Mike's not seeing everything that you guys are asking from us. Everything from the whole town budget, we are. Which is a huge amount, so I'm not comfortable as a budget chair saying one bid. I want 2 bids, or I want just the one section. We can modify that one section if you know what the amount is afterwards, but we don't. So that's where my stance is on that.
Okay. So where we have the public here with us today, we've got an opportunity for Lenny and I to get some additional input. So let me ask the question to you in the audience. Is your preference individually going with one overall bid or 2 bids?
I prefer the 2 bids. I prefer the 2. I'd rather have all of that information.
Yeah.
I'd rather know, when I go shopping, I wanna know what I'm doing. I don't just go, oh, yeah. My bill is $100, but I don't know what I'm getting all in it. And my, 2 bids. 2 sections.
Vicky, Rosemary, yep. Steve?
Yeah, I don't think we should think about going a bridge too far. Put ourselves in a real jackpot.
So do 2,
Too.
okay, Diane,
2.
Lawrence?
Any reason why we go to?
Only if there's a difficulty with bidders basically not wanting to get into multiple proposals, because one of the things that the RP states, it's a one request, but when you respond with your bids, you gotta put 2 bid packages together. One for one section, one for the full section. So it's a workload on a potential contractor that they may or may not want to take on.
But if they want the business, they'll do it,
Exactly.
and I agree that we need to be able to look at both to make a decision as to what to do. Are we just doing one section, or are we gonna look alongside it and do the whole thing, get it done?
They can
And we
use
won't
do
know
not
that
exceed verbiage too.
Well, basically, the way the contracts come in, as we were just talking about before, here's the bid price at the existing petroleum prices. The wild card factor is what is the petroleum price gonna be when you physically do the work a year from now? If it's higher, you're gonna spend more money. If it's lower, we have some money we return back in like we did this year. So, Grace?
Is there anything in the RFP that prohibits the vendors from providing a response, responding to the 2 RFPs, but tying them together so that if they are awarded both, they come in with a lower price? I mean, would there be the
One
opportunity?
one of them is for the full 2.4 miles. The other one is the shorter one, 1.1 miles.
Oh, I hear.
So
Okay.
by doing the two,
Yeah.
you're either gonna say the short one is this price, the big one, if you do it's this price. The potential savings doing it, the big one,
Mhm.
is basically you got somebody here all at one time with all the equipment here at one time. But we
I
have no
understand,
clue what
yeah.
that number means and we don't know,
Okay.
so. John, did you want to have any input on this one?
Me?
Yes,
I'm all set.
okay, good.
Thank you.
Randy,
I think two would be better,
okay,
in an idea.
I don't think I know enough to make an educated.
well, you can certainly voice something, that's okay,
I'll be the naysayer, say one.
okay. Lenny,
I agreed with Dave last week, do 2 bids, so I'll stick with Dave.
yeah, and I know Tom was adamant last week on it too, so. We'll stick with the 2 then.
That's what these estimators for the paving companies do for a living. You're not putting that much of an extra strain on them. It's just that they don't want to be seen as being overcommittal from one thing to the next. You know, that's their job.
Yeah, it will be interesting to find out in that second stretch, the big number for the bigger bid, what the difference is between that and the 1.1 miles. Because as I said before, historically, we know we spend 225 to 250 to do a mile of road.
If they're
And-
smart, they'll think that they have a foot inside the door already because of the quote for the whole thing.
Well, look, I
You
mean,
know what I'm saying?
I'm
They'll
hearing
give
too.
decent price points.
I'm hearing 2, I got it, we'll do 2, we'll continue, so the
Chuck,
document,
I'll just add one thing on that is that the unassigned fund balance, in my opinion, looks like there's a real good chance we could fund 2, depending on the price. We could do the whole full length. It looks that way, but we just need the numbers to know that. Give us the benefit.
in the time crunch we're in, we need to be able to get this thing defined, bid, and a contractor selected prior to the town meeting and contingent upon the town appropriating the money. We can't wait till January to go get the bids, we gotta do the bids now. That's why this whole discussion is gonna be an impact component, because of the timing it takes to do the different processes. So, okay, 2 will do. All right, let's see, public comment. Anybody have anything from the general public that we haven't already talked about, that you want to bring up?
I just
Mike?
didn't know if you wanted to cover a little bit of the health ordinance stuff. We didn't do anything on that.
Yeah, we could, yeah, go ahead, because we didn't have Joe in here today with the police report, we can think, so can you do it in 10?
Yeah, I can make it quick.
Okay.
I will say that I would like to have a non-public with you and Lenny in regards to some of the finer points on some activities, if that's okay.
Yep.
So with that,
This is ongoing work that you're involved with today, right?
right, this is in the pursuit of following up on trying to craft some ordinances, doing some background checks. I reached out to some area towns, the closest ones around us, to see how they're dealing with some things. There's zoning amendments being proposed by to the planning board, and some of them, some aspects focus on the issues that has been previously determined problem areas in the community and how to address that. So some of what I've been looking at is the complaints that I've gotten, and the focus on the issues that we had previously discussed as a board to see what can be done. So a greater, because I now know how to apply our zoning ordinance to actual existing issues, have a more finer eye when I'm looking at it to see how it applies. And quite frankly, we have some concerns there because the ordinance, the health ordinance, doesn't look like it's probably been being applied at all. in quite some time, probably since the time of, maybe before 2010. I know there was one selectman who was very active on that, following up on all kinds of things like septic designs and approvals and so forth. So those are now coming in, those designs and approval, which are supposed to be approved by the health officer. So that's gonna be something I'm gonna start doing, is put together some contact letter, just letting folks know that towns approve their septic systems when those come in, and notifications get responded to. Other than that, it looks like there's some areas where you probably want to expand the ordinance due to statutes that encompass some of the minimum housing standards, because there's an overlap. But in short, there's probably the next thing we want to discuss is actually putting our ordinance back into play. It would address the most concerning issues we have in town. And it's also that area towns are doing already. And when I talk to code inspectors and such, it is exactly their biggest problems as well.
So, Mike, I know you've done some homework in this area based on the board request here to you. How much of that 2002 ordinance that was designed in the past would we potentially have to modify to get us up to today's standards with the state?
Very little, actually. Surprisingly, when I looked at it, this, some of the reference to the environmental code is just one letter changed. It was updated from a WQ, we had a WS. But other than that, there's some additions that we could do that would be relevant, and actually changing the language within the ordinance itself there's very little to be changed.
Okay.
There's definitely some additions, and now it's the follow-up and having processes for the health officer to follow up on certain things, forms, documents, and now applications. One of the things we're not doing, haven't been doing, has been part of an approval process for some of the permits that get issued in town, which is mandatory. And in some areas, we're in violation of our own ordinance, and it's an overlap with the state that we're in violation with. Every approval that comes through from the state also has on the back of it somewhere where it says these are minimum standards for subsurface things, and the local ordinances are the next level, and those are enforceable. State covers that, and you can make them more restrictive. We haven't made a huge leap in that area, nor do I think we need to. But the existing language in there has been overlooked and would certainly cure several of the complaint areas that we've all been experiencing.
Okay. We have a non-public with Randy first, and we'll
Sure.
do a second one with you at that point in time.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Lenny. Any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Anything else from the public? Going once, going
I have a
twice?
question. I think it's touching on Mike's topic. So I notice, and I think the town notices a big uptick in campers and different housing and things like that. I don't know the ordinance for it. So is it allowed to have campers, and now we're adding hard rooms on and seasonal rooms and all that? Is that acceptable? Where does the affluent go? Impact on the transfer station,
So
all that stuff.
So the good news is, we started about a year and a half ago
Yeah.
to start looking into that to see what we can do address. We've done a little bit more this year.
Yeah.
Mike has been doing a ton of work on that.
Okay.
So part of what he's talking about will actually help us be in a position to better enforce that.
Yeah.
Because we know today, we've had people that have gotten septic tank state approvals. They moved into the house, they never put a septic tank in there at all. So we have no clue where the water's going. We know we have a lot of RVs that never leave the property year round and haven't for years. That's actually not, according to our ordinances, what should be done.
Yeah.
The other key thing is, if you're sitting there year round, what are you doing with your water? Gray water? Septic water? What are you doing with the water? And we've never addressed any of that. So there's large chunks of town that we've started to document, where a lot of these are in there. First thing we started with Rebecca was doing RV permits, because a lot of them weren't even on record, didn't have any RV permits whatsoever.
Yeah.
the assessor, Dave, has actually gone out helping Rebecca, doing some on-site visits to determine, what should be there from an assessing standpoint. But also, if I've got this RV that I've now added a deck on,
Or a three-season room and.
whatever. I mean, it's one of those things where you've done something in addition.
Sure.
Was there a building permit? Did you get any approvals? What we doing? So we have never, since I know, and I've been here 5 years, and that hasn't happened in 5 years, I'm here, that we've gone in and we've taken a look at what does the town currently have for policies, procedures, and ordinances, and then we follow them. The thing I can tell you is in a large number of areas, we're not.
Sure, right.
So part of what Mike is addressing from a health officer standpoint will allow us to start addressing some of that stuff. But I will also tell you, it's not gonna happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight to get us
But it's
where
a
we
start,
are.
right? So we're heading in the right direction.
Right, it's got a couple of years before we're probably gonna get some good steam on it. So. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, Lenny, anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, seeing no more in the public arena. Thank you very much, folks. We're gonna recess for about 3 minutes and then we're gonna go into a non-public. Have a great week.
Thank you, guys.